Hi there. Please just bear with me. Just getting the camera set up to the right position. So I just need to do a couple of checks there. Make sure you can see as much as necessary. Sorry, I'm just a bit behind at getting myself organized this morning, but gives you time to check in. I can see some of you arrived, so it's great. Because I don't know who's watching, you might know who I am. But if not, just a quick introduction. My name is Gayle. I'm the owner and co-founder of Live Love Yoga in Bangor in Northern Ireland. Even if you don't know us, you're very welcome to join in this morning. Since the lockdown, since we closed our business physically, we've moved all our classes online. If you haven't had a look already, we've got quite a stack of classes building up now. And you're welcome to join in and have a look at the different styles of classes. We offer different styles, some classes with a particular focus, relaxing stuff. This is less relaxing, it's a little bit more dynamic, but it's a gentle form of flow yoga this morning. So let's start to get ready. So just make sure, if you are using a yoga mat and space where you're going to be practicing, that it's safe, so there's nothing that's going to hurt you. Sometimes when we're out of the studio and we don't realize, and we perhaps haven't used our space for practicing yoga, don't realize what might get in the way. So I figured things out over the last few weeks, but anything that's and over the yoga mat in terms of what encroaches your space, not just at floor level, which is kind of the obvious one, but also higher up. So when we're doing standing postures, you might have your arms out sideways, or you might have to have space at the sides a little bit, if you can find that, or just bearing that in mind when you're moving through your postures. A little bit of space forward at the top of the mat, so where you would be when you come to stand, what you would be as the front of your mat. A little bit of space out in front is useful too. So good, some of you arriving now. So let's get started. We're going to start in a sitting position. Take a seat on your mat, and you can face whichever way. We're going to actually just settle and close the eyes, so it'll take a few minutes to prepare before we move. So sitting maybe upright, maybe sitting on something. Oh, that's what I meant to say. And it could be something as simple as a blanket folded. It's not essential, but sometimes it's useful if you feel a little bit tight in the hips, to take your seat a bit higher up. So that's how I would fold it if I was going to use a blanket for my seat. Otherwise, sit how you prefer. Cross-legged is the obvious choice, but it doesn't have to look like that. So if you can't sit cross-legged, or it's just not nice for you, then of course you can have your legs forward. You could have the soles of the feet together. You could sit round on your heels, which is not necessarily good for everybody, but it might work for some of you who can't sit cross-legged. But settling in, and if it suits, close your eyes. Sit tall. Try to elongate the spine. And the practice today is more of a flowing kind of class, but it's fairly slow, so that makes it a little bit easier to follow along with. But it is also a class that I've designed to help us feel a little bit more grounded in these uncertain times. So that sense of feeling steady, if you like. There's lots of sayings that use ground and the earth as a reference to how it feels mentally, a mental state. And so settling in to feel connected to the floor, connected to the earth, that reassurance that we can feel we're on steady ground. balance. One example of those sayings would be if you've had the rug pulled from underneath you, the floor's moved, basically, the earth has moved, and that can be very unsettling. So it's an expression, of course, of being unsettled. I'm sure there's many more that I can't actually think of at the top of my head now, but let's take some time to feel that, to observe that in the body. Observe that through your feet, of course, through your legs and your pelvis. Allowing the lower body to drop down without forcing the knees wider or without forcing at the hips, but allow a sense of weight to come into the body. And it's a really calming thing to do, actually. My hands are resting on the legs. You can have your hands wherever you like, but again, allow the weight of the arms, the hands to rest downwards. That sense of being steady, anchored, if you like, helping you to feel balanced. And whilst we're here, let's move attention to the breath initially through the nose. So let's breathe in and out through the nose if it suits you to do that. I say that knowing that some of us, we might have the usual colds, we might have a few people with hay fever symptoms this time of year, etc. So do what you can, and that's all we can do, right? So breathing in and out through the nose if it feels okay. But what I'd like you to do, however you're breathing, is to breathe slowly and calmly and encourage the breath to move deeper, slightly deeper than your everyday breathing pattern. So there's a sense of fullness to your breath without exhausting yourself so that it feels like so much effort, but there's a definite shift to breathe a little bit bigger, a little bit prouder, a little bit longer and wider, with more awareness. And think about as you breathe in, you're expanding. So as you breathe in, you'll feel a sense of lifting, rising in both the chest and the abdomen, the waist expanding, back of the chest opening. And then as you breathe out, you'll feel the opposite action. So there's a slight constriction or dropping in, falling, and the ribs and the belly draw back inwards towards the spine. And as we draw inwards, we're kind of creating this sense of steadiness in the way that we're breathing. So there's a drawing together, a slight drawing down towards the earth. And now I'd like you to breathe in fully through the nose, and we're going to breathe out through the mouth. So keep filling to a full inhale and then sigh. Feel the abdomen pull in as you breathe out. Let's do that 2 more times. Okay. We're going to lay down now, and we're going to lay down on our front. So I'd like you to roll over onto the front of the body. Try to have enough space to get your feet on, just for comfort reasons, but depends how tall you are, of course. So now what I'd like you to do, bring your forearms to cross and bring your left knee, if possible, to hip height. So the left knee is bent, and then the left toes can either point down towards the back of your mat still, Or you can turn the toes out if the ankle feels happy with that, and turning the toes out to the side. So go for a comfortable position around the lower leg, ankle, and foot, but the knee is high enough to feel a little bit of sensation, if not a lot of sensation, in the left hip joint. And then we're going to rest the right side of the head down, so the head faces the same way as the knee. Not forcing the pelvis and hips to do anything, but just allowing yourself to rest here for a few more minutes of preparation and feeling the breath in and out. We'll stay here for a few breaths. And so it might not be the most restful sensation in the hip, but see if you can relax here. Notice how this feels for you today. How do the hips feel? How's the legs, inner thighs? How does it feel to maybe finally get on your mat and take some time to yourself? Maybe you're raring to go and you need to get moving. Let's go to the second side. So gradually release to bring that left foot back on. And then when you're ready, you're going to take the right knee, height of the hip if possible, the toes comfortable, ankle comfortable, and then turn the head to the other side so your head's facing the same way as the knee. Just to even things out. Again, be passive as you can, but relaxing if you can. Relaxing as much as possible for a few breaths. But we're really connected to the floor for most part of the body here. Feeling that sense of feeling your chest and belly. The legs on the mat. Legs heavy, steady and grounded. And then we'll release, so taking your time. By the way, that posture is sometimes called Spider-Man pose. Let's begin to move on to the hands and knees. And we're actually going to flip around. So bringing yourself to lay down on your back. So we're going to stay connected to the mat a little bit longer, lay down. And we're going to bring the feet to the floor. Check you're comfortable around your neck, shoulders, pelvis. And we're going to use hands and arms alternately. We're going to bring the left hand and hold, if possible, the left foot. I appreciate that this can be tricky to reach the foot. So if you're particularly tight on the back of your leg, you might not be able to get the foot at all. It doesn't mean you can't do this posture. It means you just hold further down, right? So if it's not the foot, you can hold the shin. Or, and it's quite good to do that, this hold here actually is to hold the back of the thigh or just behind the knee, because it's a nice way to get a good grip. If you've actually got the foot, good for you, but connecting the fingers maybe on the inside of the big toe or holding the outside of the foot. Now, the tricky part here, I guess, if you're particularly tight, is this next bit. So if you've got hold of the foot, see if you can. In fact, if you've got hold of the back of the leg, you can still do this. See if you can get the left leg straighter. Now, it doesn't have to be straight. I'm not asking you to force the legs straight. If they're very tight, they might not go straight. But just see how this feels. So there's an effort with the foot lifted, the lifted foot, to push it towards the sky, and the heel pushes towards the sky, which of course stretches the back of the leg a little bit more. So that strong stretch can feel a little bit more intense. So steady as you go. Notice the breath as you're here. So working with sensation, not too worried about how straight the leg is, and not too worried about where you're holding the hand. We adapt the yoga for the person rather than forcing the body to do the yoga, which might not suit everybody. Okay, so this is a great way to bring your mental awareness out of your headspace. So when we're caught up in anxiety, worries, fears, then we tend to be all in the head, right? Because it's all going on up here. We're overthinking things. This is a great way to bring attention down, so every sensation down into the legs and feet. Going to stay with the hand connected to the foot. However you've got hold or leg, you can hold the leg for this next part as well. But this time purposely bend the knee slightly to the outside of your chest and the thigh closer towards the abdomen. So it's bent. The sole of the foot in theory is parallel to the sky, and the shin bone is vertical as you can make it. Okay, so the knee's gone wide and it's moved closer, either out to the outer chest or just into your chest. So whatever works. It depends on the shape of your hip joint. You can do this with the hand at the back of the leg. Your hand is doing quite a lot of the work here. Your hand and arm is doing the work to hold this position with the leg, and might be pretty tough for you to do this. This is half happy baby posture, and it can be pretty intense. It's one of those postures that feels good when you're finished, and it's definitely a posture that most people need. We tend to get tight from sitting, standing, or doing the same pattern of movement day in, day out, because that's what we do. We're human beings, that's how we operate. And so this might be the antidote. Let's release that left foot all the way down. Relax your left arm and shoulder for a minute. In fact, because we're doing the second side, you get a built-in rest on the first side. Let's prepare second side, the extended leg position first. So right hand holding the right foot, toe, leg, whatever works, extending the leg and working with a sensation of stretch on the back of your leg. The leg might be further away than how I'm demonstrating, and that's okay. The leg might be closer than what I'm demonstrating, and that's okay too. If you can't hold the foot, hold the leg further down. The heel lengthens upwards. Steady breaths. And then we're going to keep the hand connected as we are with the foot on leg, and then bend it, bend the knee out to the side or into your chest. But there's a definite bend happening so that the sole of the foot faces the sky and the shin is as vertical as possible. That can be quite tough. Sometimes the foot wants to roll outwards or it wants to roll inwards, but do your best to work with that sensation in a vertical position with the shin. Again, you can hold the leg and support the leg in a different way as needed. And then from here, let's release and bring that right foot back down. Let's take a little pause. Relax the hips and arms, shoulders. See how the body feels already. We've not done much, but some fairly strong opening postures already. Okay. You're going to roll over to whichever side works for you. Take your time to roll over and bring yourself up. We're going to move on to the hands and knees. So you can join me in doing that. If you need a bit of padding under your knees, you could use your blanket if you have one, or you can fold your mat, crease it to add an extra layer or two between your knee and the floor. Make sure you're towards the back end of your mat, actually. So the feet are towards the back of the mat. And the toes are either tucked or untucked, which you can do whichever you prefer as you bring your hands underneath your wrists initially. So in a tabletop position. We're going to work with the arms now, and we're going to use the strength of the arms and open around the shoulders. So reach your hands forward, and we're taking a puppy pose or half dog posture to reach your hands shoulder width apart, spreading your fingers, pressing down. So we've got this downward connection still. The chest is moving down, slightly back, but down mainly. And try to keep your arms or your elbows straight. And as you do that, widen across the back of your shoulders. So there's an effort with the arms, quite a big effort, actually. It looks like we're not doing very much, but actually, if you can keep your arms extended and roll the shoulders wide away from each other, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And so steady breaths. We're not going to hold it for too long. Use the floor, use the connection of your hands on the mat to open the body. And then slowly release. Take your time, walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. Allow yourself a little bit of time, a few moments to adjust or release from that intense stretch in the shoulders. Now we're going to move into full downward dog now. So tabletop is a great way to start that preparation for the form of your downward dog posture. It gives you a good indication of where your hands and your knees should be. So your wrists are under your shoulders and your knees are underneath your hip joints. That's a good starting place. Tuck the toes. And as you press into the hands and the toes, hover the knees. Hover the knees. Breathe in. As you breathe out, send the hips back. So keeping the knees slightly bent, lifting the hips higher. And so you're pressing the chest back. That's one of the main things we're trying to do in downward dog, is pressing the chest backwards. So your shoulders should not be over your wrist, but further back from your wrists. The further back you go, the more intense that can be in your shoulders, or until your shoulders get warm enough or open through years of practice. And so see how it feels. Take it steady. You don't have to hold this too long if you find it's quite challenging. The legs stay bent, but the hips lift upwards. So the spine gets a nice stretch between the shoulders and the hips there. The spine extends. Steady breaths here. And then we're going to lower back down, lower the knees to the floor. Okay, we're going to take the right side now, the right foot forward between the hands for a long lunge position. So aim to get the foot right between the hands so that you can see now, as I place the right foot forward, my pelvis is further forward than the back knee. Pelvis is further forward. This would be quite a short stance, which is what I did actually in one of the other classes the other day, and that's for a different purpose. So this is hip over knee. This is hip further forward than knee. Of course, the further forward you go, the more you might feel this in the back thigh. Bring the hands to the floor, either side of that front foot. The front foot is flat to the floor, my daily tongue twister challenge there. And the back toes are tucked underneath. With your hands on the mat, press into the front foot and then extend through the back leg without lifting your hips up too high. So you're keeping a deep bend in your right knee, but powering up the back leg to make the back leg straight or extended as much as you can. So squeeze the thigh muscles in towards the bone on the thigh, both thighs. And feel that you can squeeze your buttocks here as well. So there's a drawing inward, pressing down through the feet. Steady breaths. Actually, just to say, I'm using my fingertips on the floor if you can't reach your hands flat to the floor. Okay, so that's a good way to connect to the floor easier, maybe a little bit easier if you're struggling to get the hands flat. Now we're going to bring the back knee down, press into the hands, and bring that right knee back. We're going to move into downward dog again, so take your time, both toes tucked. Check your alignment if you're not so familiar. Once you've got a bit of practice under your belt, you'll find it starts to slip into place without even thinking about where your hands and knees are. But it's worth checking until you get more familiar or you get to that point. So steadily breathing out, pressing the chest back, hips lifting, knees bent, arms extended. And then we're going to gradually lower the knees back down to the floor. We're going to take the left foot forward. Of course, we're going to take the second side of that long stance with a what I would call like a low lunge. But the fact that we're powering up the back leg does make it a little bit more challenging. So hands are down. Make sure your back knee is way past your pelvis. Tuck the back toes. Extend the leg without lifting the hips up. So really, it's just about extending through the back leg, staying low and bent in the left knee. Steady breaths here. So power up the legs. Really get the leg muscles warm here. Increase the circulation around the lower body. Move out of your head into your body again. And then releasing to bring that left knee back. Gradually taking your time. If you want to take another downward dog, we're going to go to downward dog from here, or keep yourself in tabletop position. Whatever feels good. A few breaths. And then we're going to walk the hands backwards. So actually, we're going to move all the weight back into the feet only and stay folded, knees slightly bent, abdomen close to thighs, and the arms down. And the hands might not be on the floor when you do that, if you're particularly tight in the legs. So wherever you can reach, relax your arms if you can. Release the neck. Let's take 3 breaths in through the nose and again out through the mouth. In. Feel the belly move back into the spine as you breathe out. Bring the hands to the hips. Gradually rise to stand, however you prefer. Bringing yourself all the way up. We're going to stay at the back of the mat for a minute longer with the feet together now. Some people can't get their feet together, and it really depends on your feet, your alignment of your legs and feet. So do your best. If your toes don't touch, that's fine, but try and spread your toes out wide. If you can squeeze anything together, whether it's feet, the ankles, or maybe your knees or your thighs, maybe even if it's just your buttocks, squeeze the buttocks in, make everything feel firm. And now bring the palms together. Stand tall, close the eyes if it suits. Actually, notice how we can wobble around when they have the feet together with the eyes closed. That's okay. Pressing the palms gently in, but keeping the legs and feet engaged. And feel that there's this grounding connection of feet to earth, power, if you like. There's an empowerment of activating the legs, helping us to feel steady, balanced. Okay. And then gently open your eyes. But now we're going to move into a warrior two stance. So from here, I'd like you to step your right foot forward about the length of one of your legs. In fact, let's just turn to the long edge of the mat so we can face each other. You've got your feet as wide as the length of one leg. Parallel the feet. So your back, your left, it'll be your left toes will be your back foot, are now facing the long edge of your mat. To align the feet for warrior two, turn the right toes to the narrow edge of the mat. Okay, so the feet are wide, you feel balanced here. If you feel a little bit wobbly, you can take your stance slightly wider, and I'd like you to not feel wobbly if possible today. So by wider, I mean further across the narrow space of your mat, not wider apart, because that would probably do the opposite trick here. So warrior two, you want to feel steady and grounded. It's a really powerful posture. Bend your right knee, and when the knee bends, check the knee hasn't gone past your ankle. But you can go low or you can be higher, depending on how you experience this in your legs and hips, thighs, and the challenge of keeping the muscles engaged. So lower body firm and grounded, and the arms reaching wide. So warrior two, typically arms wide, and it's this big posture to create and take up lots of space. It is directional, so for a few breaths we'll turn the head and gaze to the right fingers, so the same fingers as the right bent knee. So that's the front of the posture, and it's a direction of energy or wherever you'd like to channel your power today. Now we're going to keep the legs the same. Turn to face the long edge of your mat, so facing me. Breathing in, so as you breathe in, reaffirm stretching the fingers wide. And then breathing out with the mouth, bring the palms together. Let's do that another 3 times to get into the swing of things. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And now bring the hands to the hips. We'll straighten the right leg to let the leg rest. Turn the right toes to the side, long edge of the mat. We're setting up the second side, directly one from the next. So turning your left toes right round. Hopefully the stance is still good. Ready for the second side. Left toes round to the narrow edge of your mat. Bend the left knee into warrior two, left side. Let's take a few moments of stillness in warrior two. The legs firm, engaged, pressing down through the feet. Gaze over the left fingers. Reaching the arms wide. And then gazing forward or directly over the line of your chest, breathing in, fingers wide, and breathing out, palms pressed together. Let's do that 3 more times. So use the mouth to breathe out as that release. Hands to hips, gradually release. Walk or heel toe your feet back together for a little rest before we do the next posture. Hope you're feeling good. Okay, so we're gonna, let's stay at the back of the mat. And we're gonna step the right foot forward again, slightly shorter stance for pyramid pose. So slightly shorter than the full length of your leg, sort of 3/4 of that from before. This posture, you face the narrow edge of your mat rather than the side of your mat. And what you can maybe see is that my back toes are turning forward as well, as much as your ankle allows, so that your left hip also moves forward. So we're trying to keep the hips in line with the narrow edge of the mat. The leg's going to stay straight for this posture. Okay. We're going to squeeze the inner thighs towards each other. So there's a sort of a scissoring action to firm up the legs. Press down through the feet and scissor the inner thighs together. Hands at the hips, breathe in. Now you choose how far to go here. The legs are straight, so you might need to be fairly gentle. We're folding at the hip creases as much as you're able to. That left hip is forward, the right hip is moving back. Squeeze the inner thighs together. Try to keep your lower back long and probably gazing forward rather than down, unless you're really low down. Right leg is straight. The leg muscles are firm. So keep reaffirming the strength, the balance, quality of balance in the legs. And then releasing to slowly rise. And we're going to stay with the right foot forward and change the position of the back foot. So you're going to take the back foot slightly further back. Whoop, that might unstable you a little bit, but then roll up onto the ball of the back foot so the back heel lifts. Again, hips face forward, and the best thing to help balance here is to engage the legs, okay? We are going to bend the right knee into crescent lunge or crescent moon posture. So the right knee bends, but the back leg stays firm. And you need to press down. It's a bit more of a challenge in terms of balance for this posture. Find your balance. If it suits, you can reach the arms up. If that doesn't suit, you can keep the palms at the chest or hips. So breathing in and out with a sigh, hands to heart. Palms pressed together as you breathe out. And again, breathing in. Breathing in on the way up. And sigh on the way out. Hands to hips. Slowly extend the right leg. We'll take the hands all the way down to the floor and step back to tabletop or downward dog or table then downward dog for a few breaths. And then walking the hands back to stand on the feet. Hands at the hips, gradually rise all the way up to stand. Bring the feet together. Squeeze everything in the lower legs, so the legs downwards, hips downwards. Squeezing inwards, press the palms together, stand tall. Maybe close the eyes. And so, second side, we'll step the left foot forward. So again, not too long. Pyramid first, slightly shorter stance. Back toes turn forward so your right hip moves to face the narrow edge of your mat. Squeeze the inner thighs or scissor the inner thighs towards each other. So there's a strengthening action around the legs as you do that action of squeezing or scissoring inwards. Legs are staying straight and firm. So firm as much up as you can. So firing up the legs, even if nothing's actually happening, and that does happen that happens to some people, that they're not able to engage the buttocks. But it's the practice of doing it that will help to create that effect if it's desired. Bring the hands at the hips, breathe in and breathe out, fold. So gaze forward, legs firm. So I'd like you to think about firm legs more than how low you can go with your chest here, right? Squeeze the inner thighs, right hip forward, left hip back. Find control with the posture rather than going way out of your comfort zone, going too low down, and then finding actually I'm not very stable here and I can't squeeze the inner thighs together anymore. Make sure the legs stay firm. Slowly rise all the way up. And then we're going to take the back foot slightly further back for our crescent lunge position. Slightly further back, lift the heel. Still face forward with the hips. Bend the left knee. And the back leg is firm and straight. So remember our low lunge position we did. Back leg lifting off the floor with the knee lifted off the floor. You're extending the leg in the same way. Find your balance. And you can reach up with the arms. So we'll take a few breaths with the arms extended up overhead. Breathing in. Out breath, mouth, hands to chest, sigh. 2 more. Slowly release the hands down. Downward dog or tabletop. Lower the knees to the mat and come back to a tabletop position as a starting point. In fact, for this one, just walk or crawl yourself forward so your hands are at the top of the mat and you have a little bit of space behind this time. Going to extend the left leg, so tuck the back left toes under, but keep the right knee bent. Sometimes called a half table position, or like almost like a half plank position in some ways, without too much effort at this point. Okay, so we're going to keep the back legs firm and straight. And then the same side as the bent leg, so the right arm, inhale, lift up, reach, turn the chest. Without cranking the shoulder, try and spin the chest round as far as you can. It really doesn't matter how high your hand goes, or if you can even have your hand at your hip. Turn the chest round. And then exhale the hand down to the floor. Let's take the second side. So switch over, bend the left knee, extend the right leg. Prepare the right hand. It's going to take the weight in the right hand. So left hand is lifting. Spin the chest to the left, with or without the arm. Back leg firm. And then releasing the left hand down. And then come and have a seat on the mat. So face the narrow edge. So I'd like you to keep facing forward. Sometimes I would face the other way and face you, but for this posture, I'd like you to keep facing forward because we're going to have one leg straight. Now this is where you could sit on a blanket again. If you need to. And have the right leg straight, the left foot going to the inside of the right thigh. The left knee is wide. Okay, just noticing a bit of a delay on my camera here in relation to what I'm saying, which is a bit concerning. Anyhow, I hope it's coming across useful. Good job it's not a fast class this morning. So the left knee is wide. Try to face forward with your pelvis, even if your knee has gone out to the side. So even if your left hip has gone out to the side slightly, your knee's obviously gone out to the side. Sit tall, lift up, flex your right ankle. So draw your right toes back, and then breathing out, reaching towards your right foot. Now, if you can't hold the foot because it's a long way away, hands holding down the leg. Inhale, look forward, keep the gaze towards the right toes, and then exhale, feel that you're edging slightly across to the right side. Holding here for a few breaths. And then releasing. But we're going to keep the right leg extended, and now bring the left foot across over the top of the right leg. So bend, bringing the foot to the outside edge of your right leg. Do your best to keep the left hip down. You might want to lift up here, so keeping it connected to the mat as much as you're able to. Bring your left hand behind, and then take your right arm and hug the arm across the outer left knee, thigh, wherever you can connect the arm. So pulling inwards, drawing inwards across the abdomen with the leg, and then you're turning, spinning your chest to your left, which might also include a turn of the head to the left. Try not to rely on the back hand too much. In theory, you could practice taking the hand away from the floor and maybe even reaching towards the right side of your hip or pelvis. It doesn't have to be like that if you're not able to sit upright without using the hand. That's okay. Now begin to release. And we'll set up the second side. So the left leg extending and the right knee wide. The knee is out to the side. I'm just moving across for a bit more space. Try to keep the foot on the inside of the thigh. So the right foot's on the inside of the left thigh rather than under the thigh. Try not to squash or compress the hamstrings on the left side. Lift up through the chest, extend the spine, flex the front ankle. Draw the toes back. Exhale as you fold. So the abdomen is moving across slightly. It's like you're trying to turn across to the left. Hands connect, whether it's foot or leg. Inhale, look forward to the front toes. Exhale as you fold or shift slightly forward. It might not be this far forward. It might be further back. It might be more upright than it is forward at all. Steady breaths. And exhale, releasing. Keep the left leg straight. Bring the right foot across to the left outer edge of the left leg. Sit tall. And so it's right hand behind. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, wrap the left arm round. And you're turning to your right side. trying to turn, squeezing the upper body into the leg, into the bent leg squeezing across the upper body. And if your turn allows, the head turning also more or less in the direction over your right shoulder. And you can practice taking the left hand away. So that can be a nice challenge, actually. It's not too unnerving, but you can think about lightening the pressure in the left hand, even if you're not ready to lift the hand from the floor. And then slowly releasing back to center. And we're going to face the narrow edge of the mat again, feet together this time. And you can have the feet close in to your hips without, see how it feels for your body. Might be quite simple for you to do that, or some of you might think, whoa, that's way too intense, and you can't even get your feet that far in. So feet further forward works as well for me. And we're on the slower side of the class now. We're starting to chill out a bit more. So this is quite a nice way to be a little bit more relaxed around your hips. Inhale, lift up through the chest, long spine, and then folding, which again might be more of a shift forward rather than a deep folding position. It might be more upright, and maybe you've got your hands on your legs if you can't reach the feet, or if you can't reach past the feet. Steady breaths. And then slowly beginning to release. So guiding the legs together if it's useful. And then flipping over onto your knees and have the legs together if possible. Now, I'm not going to say you have to have the legs together, but do your best to get the legs closer in towards each other, big toes touching. Do your best to do that without forcing yourself into an uncomfortable position, but then lowering or letting the hips move back. Abdomen over your thighs, and then head lowering down just in front of your knees. If it's not the floor, you could use the hands. If it's the floor, you might want to release your hands. I just want you to feel this closing in action, this drawing inwards, downwards. And again, we're fully connected to the mat here, most of the body parts, either the mat or your own body. And so obviously we can feel the chest and the abdomen on the thighs. And this can be a really soothing, comforting posture. Also quite nice to feel that you can relax your face here, allow the skin on the forehead to move towards the bridge of the nose. There's a slight direction to the skin moving downward rather than stretching the face, letting the face soften. Allow the shoulders to rest, allow the arms to rest, let the neck release the head, let the spine round. Abdomen soft, feel the breath. And then we'll begin to release. So beginning to move from child pose. Flip over onto your back. and prepare yourself for relaxation. I can see a comment there that said there was a mix-up with the times. So feel free to skip back the video if you need to. I don't want you to miss out. If you had good intentions to join in today, then don't find that as a way to just give in now. I'd like you to take what you can if you can. So if you've put some time aside for yourself, go back and do the standing postures. Pretty big, powerful postures, not overly challenging, but big postures that can create a really great sense of grounding in the body. And the same now as we rest, when you are ready to join in with the relaxation, lay down, get yourself comfortable. You can keep the feet on the floor if you don't want to bend, if you don't want to extend your legs, sorry. Shoulder heads roll back, chest opens, but then settle into the back of the shoulder blades. So resting down through the chest and the ribs, down into the back of the pelvis, down with the hands and the arms, down with the legs, the thighs, the shins, and the ankles and heels. The whole body settling down, settling back, settling into eventually a place of stillness. Settling in, resting in the face as well. Maybe you've already closed your eyes. Find a steadiness with the eyes closed or a gaze to one point of awareness. Allowing the mind to settle down just as much as you can encourage the body to do the same. Notice where the mind wants to go. If it does, that's fine. Don't punish yourself. Keep bringing your attention to an awareness of body settling down, and the breath slowing down. The breath easy, the breath light, the breath probably slow now compared to how we were breathing whilst we were moving around. That slowing down quality throughout the whole body. Dropping in. Feel the way the earth holds the body. Feel the way the earth cradles the body so simply, so effortlessly but elegantly, to steady us. And in a physical sense, that's kind of obvious here, but the way nature reminds us to be present, the way the spring flowers are bringing brightness to our daily lives, the simplicity of springtime, the animals, the birds, the sprouting of new life and seeds. The way the earth supports our whole being every day, all day. And we, as nature, just like the birds, we are animals. We are the same. We can observe nature within us, even on the days that we can't see the blossom. We can't see the blossom out the window. We can still feel nature within us. I'd invite you to maybe stay a little bit longer to rest today if that feels useful for you. You could stop the video now, or you could just ignore what I'm going to say. Don't mind. If you are and you need to finish, I don't know, we do have to live our lives to timescales, that's okay. But beginning to move the fingers, moving the toes, waking yourself up, stretching maybe the arms, pointing the toes, space, maybe reach overhead. And then eventually bending your knees into your chest. Roll side to side, rock side to side. Rock all the way over to one side. Bring yourself up, coming to a seat. And you can sit yourself tall. When you get there eventually, wake up the spine. Rest the hands, lift the chest, balance the head. Feel grounded and connected to the earth once more. The steadiness of our seat, helping to calm the mind, reminding us to stay present physically and times of challenge, how to stay present emotionally, or how the sort of leading the way. It doesn't mean it's simple as that. But even taking a few moments of your day to observe your breath, maybe sit still and observe the body. And if you're lucky enough to maybe spend some time in nature today. Thank you for your practice as always. Thank you so much for joining in. Have a great day. Namaste.